Welcome to In the Spotlight. I'm Shirley Lin. Now, I'm really excited today to be speaking with Xuan Liu, Liu Xuan, who is, let me start off. He's a writer, he's a DJ, he's a father of 2 kids, and he's a public speaker. He's also a radio host, and what else am I missing? I don't know. But I can't wait to meet him. So, hi, Xuan.
Hello, Shirley.
Good to meet you.
It's good to meet you finally.
Yes, and having heard so much about you, and of course today we're really going to talk about your book, but that would be for the second half of the interview. But to start off, why don't you tell a story that has impacted you?
Okay, well, this came as sort of a pop quiz right before the camera started rolling.
I told you that you were going to tell a story.
Okay.
But
Well, okay, so my story is not about me.
Okay.
It's about a math genius. His name is Andy Hildebrand. And he studied musical theory and mathematics. And when he graduated from college, he worked for Exxon, ExxonMobil, the petroleum company. Yes, the oil company. And what he did was he worked in the research division, developing a way to interpret sonic data from the Earth. So what they would do is they would send vibrations into the Earth. And because sound waves travels at different speeds through different types of rock, so by judging the types of waves that come back, you can get a picture of what the Earth is like under you.
right, and where if there's
and where
oil.
potential oil fields
Yeah,
are.
right.
Right. And so he was very successful at doing this, and he came up with a few new theories for based on this kind of special kind of mathematical model called autocorrelation. Now, I'm not a math genius, so I don't know anything about that. I just know the name. So anyway, this made Exxon and him very rich, and so he retired early. And so when he retired, he thought, well, what am I going to do? He's always been interested in music. He's actually a flutist.
Yeah.
So he thought about maybe, he would play some jazz flute, start up a band. And then he thought, well, maybe is there some way that I could apply my math training to music and bridge the two fields? And so he started working on that. And this was in the era when computers were just getting fast enough to start doing the real-time digital signal processing, right?
Okay.
So he worked on it for many years, and he came up with some cool stuff, but nothing groundbreaking. And then there was one day that he was having dinner with some friends, and the wife of one of his friends sat at the dinner table, and he said, oh, so you work with, like doing fancy stuff with sound. If you can invent something that will keep me in key while I'm singing, then I would be ever so grateful.
Right.
Right. So this was meant as a joke.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's impossible, so everyone laughed it off, except Andy Hildebrand. After dinner, he thought about it, and he thinks, wait a second, there's actually something about the way that a person sings and autocorrelation that can be applied to that. So he did a lot of research, and then he eventually came up with the way to fix your pitch in real time. So as you're singing, if you're off key.
In real time?
In real time, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and this was amazing. This came out as, it first came out as a plugin, as a software that hooks onto the digital audio workstations that people were recording on. And this product is called Auto-Tune. Right?
Yes.
Auto-Tune.
I know I should go like, wow, but I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? You haven't heard the name,
right.
But you have definitely heard Auto-Tune in action. I guarantee you. Because it's on 99.9% of the records out there. Especially any pop records, hit singles, you name it. All right, everyone uses it. Everyone uses it to sort of tweak their voice so that when they're a little bit fluctuating off key, it'll be pulled onto key and it will sound natural. All right.
Yeah. Well, you said real time. So what are you saying? Like when someone's like having a concert right there and then, and the person that's like doing the console,
Yes, it's actually available in a rack mount form in hardware. So there's actually a lot of really, really top singers. I won't name who, but
no, don't.
Pretty much, there's a lot of people out there that will not be able to go on tour without this thing. And when they're, dancing around on stage, when they sing, they're a slight bit off key. Of course, you have to, tell the computer which key you're in, right? But it will pull you to the nearest note of that key. So you will sound always perfectly in tune.
Yeah.
And you can adjust exactly how relaxed or how strict it is, right? So the thing is that there's a setting that's really extreme, so that it works really fast, and it works just like almost like a robot, right? It'll pull you to like the perfect pitch. But the problem is that most people sound unnatural, because it's actually, you know, a good performance is actually supposed to waver a little bit. So when you tune it to, you know, the extreme, then you have this kind of robotic sound where when you're jumping between the keys, it actually has more, it goes like right angles instead of sort of pitch bending up to it, right? And actually there's a bunch of people that started using it. Like producers thought, oh, you know what, it sounds totally unnatural, but it's really cool. So I think the first big single that they used auto-tune to that effect was Cher's Believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if you know that song.
I know Cher.
Cher, and there's Do
Sing
You Believe in Love After All?
Okay.
And during the chorus, I'm not going to sing it because I don't have auto-tune here.
Wow.
But during the chorus, it goes into this really, really weird kind of sound. And back then, no one's heard it before. So they were like, wow, this is so new. It became this, you know, I think probably the top one single in, I think, 1999 or 2000 or whatever it is. And then there were a bunch of artists that started using it, you know, to death. Like T-Pain, a lot of the like Girls' Generation, a lot of the Korean artists, pop artists. Whenever they go into the chorus and you start hearing these kind of like really sort of very angular, robotic pitch changes, that's auto-tune.
Oh.
And then when you are not hearing it, when it sounds all natural, that's auto-tune also.
Okay.
So basically, there are so many artists out there.
Right? It's just totally smart.
Well, it's smart, and it's also
it
also obviously made Andy Hildebrand even more wealthy.
Yeah.
Right. And also launched the careers of many artists who otherwise would not have been able to be artists,
Including you? Because this story has made an impact on you? Well, not a singer,
well, you know what? The way that this story made an impact on me is two things. One is Andy Hildebrand, he bridged two different fields, music and, you know, seismology, basically, you know. And he created something totally new because he worked in both of these fields. And very few people are musicians and they study the earth. And he was able to do that and created this product that had nothing to do with either one of them, but actually helped a lot of people, right? And the second thing is that a lot of times something that we take for granted, like a dinner table conversation, you know, hey, make me sing on key, you know, hey, to us it's a joke, but to someone whose mind is well prepared and who comes from the right background, he gets that and this inspiration, and it launches something which we call a lucky break.
Of course, you're talking a lot of things about your book, but we're going to get to that later. Okay, the book is called Get Lucky, 祝你好运. So basically, get lucky. That's the English translation, right?
Well, it's a lot of my English-speaking friends are like, do you mean like get lucky? Isn't that get lucky? Like, well, it's a little bit intentional, the double entendre, you know.
Okay. But I think you didn't intend to be a writer because your dad was a writer, but you didn't think that you were going to be, you know, walking his steps until much later, right? I mean, what was the very first
Not
interest?
even until much later.
Oh, well,
like
not
ever.
that much later.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah.
So, right, ever. Okay. So was it like intentionally, like you just didn't want to walk in your dad's footsteps? I mean, by the way, your dad is Liu Yong, who is a very famous writer. And also, he also hosts a TV show. But he's a very smart guy, according to your mom. And probably you think so too. But I think a lot of young people here respect your dad a lot. And that probably puts a little bit of pressure on you. But now you're getting to be who you are, regardless of your dad, or who your dad is. But anyway, okay, so what's my question? What was the first thing that you started off as your interest? I mean, you studied at Harvard, and that was in what field?
It was psychology.
And that's why you have the book. We're going to get to that, like I said. So what was the very first interest?
You know how they always ask kids in the States, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And everyone always had an answer.
You didn't have an answer?
I never had an answer. Because my answer would always be, I don't want to grow up. Why do I want to grow up? You know, growing up is hard. I see the adults around me, they're working their butts off. You know, I can enjoy being me. And so all I really wanted to be was a kid. And I think it was also partly is I felt that I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. I wasn't someone who had life like calling me,
right,
from a very early age. I had life happen to me, and a lot of big changes happened in my life. When I was born, our family was not well off.
Right.
We lived on the side of train tracks. I was born in Taipei, and it's by a place called Huashan, the Huashan Cultural Park now.
Yeah,
actually.
now.
Yeah, and so the train tracks are now Civic Boulevard, 市民大道, right? And I lived right next to it. So every day I would watch the trains pass. So I was like a very early train spotter. And then, but I was a happy kid, according to my parents. And then at that time, my dad wrote a book, it was also almost kind of by accident because he's actually a painter by trade and by training.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a classical Chinese painter, watercolors. And because he was hosting a TV show at the time, so he wrote some scripts for it that are more motivational. He thought maybe I could publish this. And no one wanted to publish it. No, actually because of the show. So he thought he had a chance, but actually all the publishing companies told him like, no, we're not interested. So he just, he printed a few hundred copies himself, but then they just ended up becoming a bestseller.
Right.
Yeah, totally by accident.
Yes.
And so that changed our life. When I was 5 years old, we were able to move out of that it's kind of it was违章建筑. It wasn't even supposed to be
illegal
built
building.
in there. Yeah.
Okay.
And then moved to 忠孝东路4段 now,
All right.
which is, 忠孝Section 4, which now everyone
Downtown
knows
Taipei.
is a very expensive area. And back then it was just starting to get developed.
Yep.
Right. So that was the first big change. And then my father got an opportunity to become an artist in residence at the Danville Museum in Virginia.
Right.
And it was a part of a kind of an artist exchange program they were having with the Natural History Museum here. And so he took it. He quit his job, a very nice job at the television station. And he just, picked up and he just left. And so between the ages of 5 and 8, I didn't see my dad. He just left, the whole family. Apparently this was a very common thing to do back then, for a lot of men. You see this actually happening in mainland China right now.
That
where
is true.
Wherever the opportunity is, you know,
Yeah.
you have kids, you leave them behind. You go and you find opportunity, you make something of yourself, and then you take the family over when you're ready.
But
Right?
it seemed like your dad was so lucky to have that opportunity just out of nowhere, sort of.
Which one?
I mean,
the artist?
Yeah.
Well,
in Virginia?
actually, he fought very hard for it. Because as a painter, he was always worked very hard at his painting. He won a lot of national competitions, and so that got him that opportunity. So it was step by step. It didn't just fall out of thin air.
So he was first a painter, then a writer.
Yes, he was first a painter and is a writer by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but he always loved words.
He seemed always very optimistic about life.
You know what? No, I wouldn't say
No?
that he was optimistic. No. I would
Okay.
say that he is a pragmatist, and also that that he has a very high degree of self-efficacy, where he feels that whatever obstacles come my way is a problem to be solved rather than a setback.
Of course, you mentioned that in your book too.
And yeah, that's a crucial factor on
Are
having
you
a
a
lucky life.
pragmatist too, you think?
I try to be. I don't think as much as he is, because he's a self-made man. So I think a lot of self-made men have, I think just by virtue of them being self-made, have a high degree of self-efficacy. So, but all I know is when I was 8 years old, I was plucked out of my comfortable environment in Dongqu and then put right into the States.
Yeah.
And basically, I wasn't prepared for it at all.
Not even the language.
Not even the language. Yeah, my ABCs, I probably knew up to D, and then I couldn't even recite the alphabet. Seriously, like my English was terrible. And so I went there, and then within 2 weeks of getting there, they put me into a private Catholic school, just because it's close to our house, and also because they think it's be less likely for me to get beat up after school for being such
Yes.
an FOB, like fresh off the boat. Right. So I went there. There was no ESL program, so I literally was
not
a
in
sink or
those
swim.
days.
Yeah, and so the first day of school, I sunk terribly. The teachers didn't know how to speak Chinese. They were looking at me and handing me a piece of paper and a pencil, and they just said copy onto the blackboard. And I didn't even know how to read what's on the blackboard. I mean, there was like hieroglyphics to me. So I
Yeah.
just sketched the blackboard. And they realized that, wait a second, this kid really doesn't know anything. They asked me, the classmates asked me, so what's your name?
Right.
And I couldn't understand
that.
their question. So I answered them in the only phrase that I knew how to say, which was, I don't know. So guess what my name was, all the way until graduation. Yeah, that was it. So it was, it was very tough. And the first day, and then the teachers realized that, wait a second, we can't deal with this kid. So they had me put back into second grade. So I was left back after one day of school.
Oh, just one day.
Just one day of school. Yeah, they think that it would be a little bit easier for me. And so that's how my adventures in life, really sort of got started. These two big changes when I was 5 and then when I was 8, moving to the States.
Wow.
And it was totally fish out of water.
All right.
Yeah. So you asked me what I wanted to be. After having that happen to me, I just wanted to be a kid. I just want to fit in. I just want to be happy. I just want to have friends that would stick around, and for me not having to suddenly move somewhere else, which ended up doing also in New York. We moved twice. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to hear more about Xuan's life story. Maybe his childlike character made him who he is today, a man of all trades. No, a jack of all trades, and also a man of all hats. I mean, wearing lots of hats. Okay? So we're going to talk about that later on. So let's take a break here. Welcome back to In the Spotlight. I'm Shirley Lin. Today my guest is Xuan Liu, Liu Xuan, who is, here I go again, a writer, a DJ, a program host, a radio program host at that, and a public speaker, and a father of 2 kids. So we were talking earlier about him, having a big change in his life at the age of 5, and then eventually at the age of 8 when he went to the States as FOB, fresh off the boat, and how he didn't know any English. When people asked him what's his name, he said, I don't know, and that turned out to be his name. Okay, so anyway, but you did fine, because then I think you adapted really easily, really fast, and you just wanted to remain a kid. And I think that's an advantage to you, I think. Well, we can talk about that later. But then you went on to Harvard, okay? And of course, we all know that's a prestigious school in the States. And you studied psychology. And you've written several books before you came out with Get Lucky, 祝你好运, this book here, which are very different from this one you have here.
Yeah,
and I guess, is it because, I want to, what I studied at Harvard, I want to make it into good use. So I'm going to write this book about Get Lucky. Is that how you came up with this book?
No, actually the real reason for writing this is because I realized that psychology can be applied across many, many, many things. And since I left academic psychology, I always thought that it would just be something in the background of my life. But then I realized a lot of my friends around me, actually, they lacked a lot of these, I guess what we call psychological common sense, that I just kind of took for granted. So I would be telling these stories to my friends, and they said it would help them a lot. Then later, I think really, over the past few years, we've seen that in Taiwanese society, that there's a lot of negativity and a lot of complaining.
Especially now.
Yeah.
In the last, 10 years.
Yeah, and it's almost getting to a point of having learned helplessness, when, especially for the younger generation, they think that, I don't have much hope, so, so let me just, tend to my little coffee shop or little garden or something. Not to say that that's not good, but when you fail to see all the different choices that actually life does provide for you, if you only have the tools to go and figure out your life. And so that's sort of what kind of gelled for me over the past few years, that I can really be useful in this way, that I can use a lot of the training that I had before, plus much of the development in the field of psychology over the past 15 years, especially in the field of positive psychology.
Really?
And there's a big gap. In the States, there's a lot of really great self-help books that are based on positive psychology, written by academics, but really meant for the lay reader, and everyone loves them, right? They're bestsellers, but they get translated here, and they sound like textbooks. And so there's only a certain type of person that would read them. And these people are actually self-help people anyway. The people that really need to be helped, they can't really digest this information. So I felt like I'm in a position where I can try to make this stuff more fun, more easily accessible, and turn it into, hopefully, into a how-to. Especially for really busy people out there. Most people are like, they read a book and they're like, oh yeah, I want to change my life. But it requires, a 40-hour week, time commitment. No, you're not going to do that. So what I try to do is try to take all the research and boil it down to the most crucial elements, the stuff that I think would work, even if you just practice it 5 minutes a day. Right? And there are things like that out there. And so basically in this book, I came up with kind of like a program that you can take yourself through, step by step, and to try to create the external and the internal factors for a luckier life.
So, my feeling from this book is that luck doesn't only come to certain people. You're saying that everyone can be a lucky person. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and everyone can also be an unlucky person. See, that's the flip side of it. What I mean to say is that we can never predict what will happen to us from day to day. There are these things that, meteors fall out of the sky. Yes. And, there's, solar flares, all that, right? But what we can do is actually create the conditions for maximum inspiration where we can get inspired to have lucky breaks, just like the story about Andy Hildebrand. How do we prepare our mind? How do we prepare ourselves internally to have the right attitude so that we can see the opportunities? And here I cite a study by Professor Richard Wiseman. He's a professor of psychology in England who worked with BBC. And they did really scientific, laboratory studies of lucky and unlucky people. And they found that lucky people have 4 distinctive traits. In that one, they feel that they are going to get luckier, so they're more positive, right? They rely on intuition a lot, and their intuition is sharp. Right? They also they can bounce back from setbacks.
Right.
Even if something bad happens, they think, okay, there's a silver lining behind that cloud. Basically.
Right.
Yeah. And then
the fourth one.
And then the fourth one is that they can use little things that happen around them, these seemingly random events, and string them together to become opportunities.
Okay.
Right. So.
But you know what? I think that it's only those people who are born positive can do those 4 steps. Am I right? I mean, people.
But do you believe that there are some people who are born positive? Okay, granted.
Probably not. I probably don't mean that. But I meant there are people who are generally just positive. Even when bad things happen to them, they're positive. But you're trying to tell that to someone who's always negative, who's always looking for problems, who's thinking this is not going to work. That's me. It's hard. It's like you have to push yourself to okay, that wasn't a problem. You can change your mind about it and think of it positively.
Right.
Right?
Right. Well, the important thing to keep in mind is that positive mindset creates more positive mindset.
Yes.
It's a positive spiral. And negative mindset can create a negative spiral. But actually, it's just like a yin-yang. It's healthy to have a mixture of both.
Oh.
And so the thing is that just like my dad, when you said that he's a very positive person, no, he's not. He's actually always thinking about the worst thing that can happen in any situation. Yes.
How come he always gives the feeling that he's always very positive? He's always smiling. He always seems like hope is around the corner or something.
Sure. You know what? You can be very aware. You can be mindful of all the dangers out there, but be rational so you can evaluate the risks and then take the emotion out of it so that you don't get into that spiral. Take the things that are the greatest risk, prepare for them, right? And then when you're well prepared, then you can be as positive as you want to be. And it's actually the positivity gives you the motivation and makes things go smoothly. And especially, in interacting with people. But actually having the slightly negative or being mindful of the dangers out there, actually, it sets the conditions where you can prepare properly for it. But a lot of people, they know the dangers that are out there, but they head towards the dangers anyway, and they don't prepare for it. So there's a self-defeating mistake. And then, when something happens, they're like, see, I knew it. And that creates the negative spiral. And then to the point where the next time even a mile away, they say, I'm not going to touch that. I'm not even going to try. I'll give it a shot because I'm sure you're not like that.
Oh, I am. See, I don't show that way, but I am, But one thing you said in the book that people thought that you are a very extroverted person, but actually you're introverted. And I'm surprised.
I'm totally an introvert.
I'm surprised about that. You don't think of yourself as still an introvert.
Well, I hide it pretty well. A lot of introverts hide it pretty well.
Okay.
And I think people think that introverts have to be, wallflowers. But not really. It's just a state of mind where you're more comfortable. Mm-hmm. But we also, have times where we step out of our comfort zone, right? And so you just learn to step out of your comfort zone until it becomes comfortable. Mm. But still, if you ask me, where's my home, like in my heart, I'm an introvert. And that's part of the reason why I actually became a DJ. See, most people don't know this, and I will actually say this on the record here. Most people think that I become DJs because, hey, it's cool, I want to be partying. No, I became a DJ because I love to be around people, but actually I'm really, really afraid of big crowds.
So you like to be around people, but you're a quiet kind of person around
Yeah, I actually get really withdrawn in these kind of party situations. Yeah, and so when you have, I can be great on one-on-one conversation, right? But you get a group of people, then I usually become like the one that's more quiet.
Same here.
Yeah, but I love to be around people. I love the vibe when people are happy and positive, I get influenced by that. So what's the best way to be? You want to be in a position where you don't really have to talk to people, but you can always be around people, and you can even influence the vibe of the party.
Yeah.
A DJ.
Okay.
See, I never have to talk to anybody, And actually, when people come to talk to me, I'm just like, hey, yeah. Sorry, I'm busy, Okay. It's a great way to be. And as a DJ, you're always one step ahead of the party because you have to think about the next song. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of like a little bit like the oracle, you know. And I don't like to say I'm the center of the party. I don't want to be the center of the party, but I want to be the person who can sort of like, give the vibe to the environment.
Right.
Yeah, that's where I'm happiest.
Now, in this book, you were mentioning about actually 9 habits of, help me. 9 habits of
getting lucky or
getting lucky?
Of a good luck life.
Oh, a good luck life.
Yeah.
And you said that actually out of the 9 habits, the one that's hardest for you was tuning to the right frequency or something? Yeah. There is one, right?
Yeah, tuning to the right frequency is a catch term for 3 habits, 3 of the habits.
Okay.
Yeah. And basically, if we think of ourselves as a radar dish, right? Even when they're looking in the SETI project or something like that, right? They have to tune to a certain frequency, and then they analyze the data from that frequency, right? If you just look at all frequencies, it's just a mess.
Right.
But we live in a full spectrum world, so all the time we have things bombarding us from all senses, and our brain actually chooses what to focus on. So there are these experiments, Daniel Simons from Harvard University did this one about inattentional blindness, where a bunch of people passing the basketballs, right? And people who are focused on the basketball passing miss a big gorilla that walks right into the court and actually pounds his chest and walks off.
I saw him.
A lot of people, oh, you saw him? Okay, well, great. About 50% of the people will see him on the first viewing, right? But then, a lot of times when you're driving, you can't do 3-digit multiplication and drive at the same time. Exactly, because we have a limited bandwidth.
Equipped you are.
Yeah, but we can be in a crowded room and really noisy environment, and somebody calls your name from really far, and you can be in the middle of a conversation, you hear it. So what does that mean? That means the data stream is coming to our brain chooses what to focus on. So how do you set the frequency so that you tune into the things that are helpful to you and don't keep dwelling on the things that are not helpful to you, the things that are taking up bandwidth? So in that whole section, I basically talk about, first of all, how do you clear your mind? A lot of times we're carrying excess baggage in our mind. There are techniques that are proven in laboratory where you can download your thoughts basically and sort of get them out of the way for a brief period to clear your head, right? So you can think clearly. And then when you're thinking clearly, you set those frequencies. You tune into what's most important for you right now, but you're rational about it. So you make a plan. So it's a rational way. It's nothing like The Secret where you just believe and then something will happen, right? But it's a source of planning, but then, setting the right environment, you put into your mind that, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on, and then you actually widen your focus and you go about your day. And then you actually find all sorts of ways to to basically seek random bits of information, and somehow they will all gel together if you tune your frequency right. Yeah, and that's the kind of amazing thing. But because it's actually is in the literature and it's been proven in studies, so I believe that it really works, and it works for me definitely.
Yeah, but that's the part that you say you still kind of need work on in tuning up.
No, the part that I need to work on is actually clearing my mind.
Clearing my mind. So,
yeah, when people say that you need to meditate and you need to do that,
yeah.
I can't do that. I can't do that. So this book is written for people who cannot meditate. Yeah, for like more than 5 minutes, I forget about
it. Refresh my memory. So what do you do? I mean, you're not good at meditating. So what was the way?
Well,
I forgot now. You said in the book.
There's 2 or 3 different things that you can do. One of them is you can take a sheet of paper and stream of consciousness, write down every single little thing that comes into your mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, David Allen talks about in his Getting Things Done, which is this really big system, executive action system that a lot of people really subscribe to, and he calls it clearing your psychic RAM. That when you're carrying too many things in your RAM, it's just like a computer. When the RAM is full, the computer slows down. And we're just like computers also. And there's a lot of things where, because of the mind-body connection, when you physically write it down, your brain is tricked into thinking that,
putting it down.
It's remembered somewhere. And so it relaxes the hold a little bit. And so when you spend about 5 or 10 minutes clearing your mind like that, then you can get a sense of peace. It's much better than if I'm just going to sit here and sort of think about peaceful things.
Right.
Yeah, because you already have very narrow bandwidth.
Yeah. I should probably try that. Trying to read through your book, so I didn't really put into practice all the little exercises you have in there, but I'll probably go back on the book and put some of them into practice.
Please let me know if it works for you.
Okay, I will. Well, it's really been a great joy talking to you, and it's amazing what you've done, up to this point of your life, with all the things that you've wanted to do as a kid, and I think you've had your moments, just having those childhood days and everything. But then to think about writing this book, and actually not just to help yourself, but actually to help most people around you, right?
Thank you, Shirley. I mean, for me, life is like a story. We're always constructing our narrative, and just like I said before, life happened to me, right? Okay. And then because my father also used me as a subject to write many popular books. And so I felt like I was of use without me even intentionally becoming that. And now I found a way to make myself, hopefully, be useful to a great many people. Great. And I feel blessed in that way.
That is great. Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
I
believe you have a story to end our talk today.
Oh, story to end. Well, you know what? I think we'll save that for another time.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Yeah, it's a little heavy.
Me.
It's about memory. It's about memory and the role of memory. But maybe I'll write that into a future book.
That could be another book, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Shirley.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching In the Spotlight. I'm Shirley Lin.